welcome back to DZ's Daily Devotions. So glad to have you guys with me. If you're just picking up and just wanting to start reading the Bible in 1 year, we've started all the way back at day 1, and what we're doing here is reading the Bible in 365 days. And like I said, today's day 54, but we have a playlist, so you can go back and check out all of our previous videos and, maybe start day 1. And then tomorrow start day 2, or if not, pick up here on day 54, whatever you want to do. Just glad that you're here. But today we're picking up where we left off in Leviticus, and we're reading chapter 14. Chapter 14, Cleaning from Skin Diseases. And the Lord said to Moses, "The following instructions are for seeking ceremony of purification from a skin disease. Those who have been healed must be brought to a priest who will examine them at a place outside the camp. If the priest finds that someone has been healed for a serious skin disease, he will perform a purification ceremony using 2 live birds that are ceremonially clean, a stick of cedar, and some scarlet yarn, and a hyssop branch. The priest will order that the bird be slaughtered over a clay pot and filled with fresh water. He will take a live bird, the cedar stick, and the scarlet yarn, and the hyssop branch, and dip them into the blood of the bird that was slaughtered over the fresh water. The priest will then sprinkle the blood of the dead bird 7 times on the person being purified of the skin disease. When the priest has purified the person, he will release the live bird into the open field to fly away. The persons being purified must then wash their clothes, shave off all their hair, and bathe themselves in water. They will be ceremonially clean and will be able to return to camp. However, they must remain outside their tents for 7 days. On the 7th day, they must go again and shave all their hair from their heads, including their hair from their beard and eyebrows. They must also wash their clothes and bathe themselves in water. Then they will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, each person being purified must bring 2 male lambs and 1-year-old female lamb, all with no defects, along with a grain offering of 6 quarts of choice flour moistened with olive oil and a cup of olive oil. The officiating priest will present the person for purification along with the offerings before the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will take one of the male lambs and the olive oil and present them as a guilt offering, lifting them up as a special offering before the Lord. He will then slaughter the male lamb in the sacred area for a sin offering and a burnt offering. As with the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest and is most holy. The priest will take some of the blood of the guilt offering and apply it to the lobe of the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot of the person being purified. Then the priest will pour some of the olive oil onto the palm of his own left hand. He will dip his right finger in the olive oil on his palm and sprinkle some of it with his finger 7 times before the Lord. The priest will then apply some of the oil on his palm over the blood from the guilt offering that is on the lobe of the right ear, the thumb of the right hand, the big toe of the right foot of the person being purified. The priest will apply the oil remaining in his hand to the head of the person being purified. Through this process, the priest will purify the person before the Lord. Then the priest must present the sin offering to purify the person who is cured of the skin disease. After that, the priest will slaughter the burnt offering and offer it on the altar along with the grain offering. Through the process, the priest will purify the person who is healed, and the person will be ceremonially clean. But anyone who is too poor and cannot afford these offerings may bring 1 lamb for a guilt offering, and lift it up as a special offering for purification. The person must also bring 2 quarts of choice flour moistened with olive oil for a grain offering and a cup of olive oil. The offering must also include 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, whichever the person can afford. 1 pair must be used for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. On the 8th day of the purification ceremony, the person being purified must bring the offerings to the priest in the Lord's presence at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will take the lamb for the guilt offering along with the olive oil and lift them up as a special gift to the Lord. When the priest will slaughter the lamb for a guilt offering, he will take some of the blood and apply it to the lobe of his right ear, the thumb of his right hand, the big toe of his right foot of the person being purified. He will dip his finger in the olive oil in the palm and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord. The priest will then apply some of the oil of his palm over the blood of the guilt offering on the lobe of the right ear, the right thumb, and the right big toe of the person being purified. The priest will also apply the remaining oil on the head of the person being purified. Through this process, the priest will purify the person before the Lord. Then the priest will offer 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, whichever the person can afford. 1 of them is for a sin offering and 1 for the burnt offering, presented along with the grain offering. Through this process, the priest will purify the person before the Lord. These are the instructions for purification to those who have recovered from a serious skin disease and cannot afford normally required for a ceremonial purification. Treated for contaminated houses. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, When you arrive to Canaan, the land I'm giving you for your possession, I may contaminate some houses in your land with mildew. The owner of the house must go to the priest and say, "It appears that my house has some kind of mildew." Before the priest goes to inspect the house, he must have the house emptied so nothing inside will be pronounced ceremonially unclean. Then the priest will go in and examine the mildew on the walls. If he finds greenish or reddish streaks of contamination that appears deeper than the surface, the priest will step outside the door and put the house in quarantine for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest must return with another inspection. If he finds that the mildew on the walls has spread, the priest orders stones from the area to be removed. The contaminated material will be taken outside to a town area designated as ceremonially unclean. Next, inside walls will be entirely scraped thoroughly, and the scrapping is dumped to an unclean place outside the town. Other stones will be brought to replace the stones that were removed, and the walls will be replastered. But if the mildew reappears after all the stones have been replaced, the house is scraped and replastered. The priest must remain and inspect the house again. If he finds that the mildew has spread, the walls are clearly contaminated with serious mildew, and the house is defiled. It must be torn down. All of its stones, timbers, and plaster must be carried out of the town to a place designated as ceremonially unclean. To those who enter the house during the period of quarantine will be ceremonially unclean until the evening, and all those who sleep or eat in the house must wash their clothing. But if the priest returns for his inspections and finds that the mildew has not reappeared in the house after fresh plastering, he will pronounce it clean because the mildew is clearly gone. To purify the house, the priest must take 2 birds, a cedar stick, some scarlet yarn, and a branch. He will slaughter one of the birds over a clay pot filled with water. He will take the cedar skip and the branch and the scarlet yarn and the live bird, dip them in the blood of the slaughtered bird over the fresh water. Then he will sprinkle the house 7 times. The priest will purify the house the exact way. He will release the live bird into the open fields outside the town. Through this process, the priest will purify the house and it will be ceremonially clean. These are the instructions for dealing with the serious skin diseases, including scabby sores and mildew, whether on clothing or in a house, and swelling of the skin, a rash or discolored skin. This procedure will determine whether a person or object is ceremonially clean or unclean. These are the instructions regarding skin diseases and mildew. So that's where we're going to leave off in Leviticus today. Let's go ahead and move on to Mark. We are in Mark chapter 6, verse 30, and we're reading till verse 56. Jesus feeds 5,000. The apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour and told him all they had done and taught. Then Jesus said, "Let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while." He said this because there were so many people coming and going that Jesus and his apostles didn't have time to eat. So he left by boat to a quiet place so he could be alone. Many people recognized him and saw them leaving. People from many towns right ahead along to the shore and got ahead of them. Jesus saw a huge crowd as he stepped off the boat and had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. Late in the afternoon, his disciples came to him. "This is a remote place and I'm already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to a nearby farm and village and buy something to eat." But Jesus said, "You feed them." "With what?" they asked. "We have not worked for months to earn enough money to buy food for these people." "How much bread do you have?" he asked. "Go and find out." They came back and reported, "We have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Then Jesus told the disciples that the people sit down in groups on the green grass. They sat down in groups of 50 or 100. Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, looked up toward the heaven, and blessed them. Then, breaking the loaves into pieces, he kept giving the bread to the disciples so they could distribute it to the people. He divided the fish for everyone to share. They all ate as much as they wanted, and afterward the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftover bread and fish. A total of 5,000 men and their families were fed from those loaves. Jesus walks on water. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted his disciples to get back in the boat and head across the lake to Bethsaida and send the people home. After telling everyone goodbye, he went up the hills by himself to pray. Late that night, the disciples were in their boat in the middle of the lake, and Jesus was alone on the land. He saw that they were in serious trouble, rowing hard and struggling against wind and waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on water. He intended to go past them, but when he saw them walking on water, he cried out in terror, thinking it was a ghost. They all were terrified when they saw him, but Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." They climbed into the boat, and the wind stopped, and they were totally amazed, for they didn't understand the significance of the miracles of the loaves. Their hearts were too hard to take it in. After they had crossed the lake and landed on Gennesaret, they brought the people on shore and climbed out. The people recognized Jesus, and they ran throughout the whole area, carrying sick people and mats wherever they heard he was. Wherever he went, the villages, cities, and countryside, they brought the sick out of the marketplaces and begged him to let the sick touch him, the fringe of his robe, and then the ones who touched him were healed. So we're going to leave off there. Let's go ahead and read our psalm for today. We're in Psalm 40, and we're reading verses 1 through 10. Psalm 40. I have waited patiently for the Lord to help me, and he turned me and heard me cry. He lifted me out of the pit of despair, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on solid ground and steadied me as I walked along. He has given me a new song to sing, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will be amazed and see what he has done. They will put their trust in the Lord. Oh, the joys of those who trust the Lord, who have no confidence in the proud of those who worship idols. O Lord, my God, you have performed many wonders for us. Your plans for us are too numerous to list. You have no equal. If I tried to recite all your wonderful deeds, I would never come back. You take no delight in sacrifice or offering. And now that you have made me listen, I finally understand. You don't require burnt offerings or sin offerings. Then I said, Look, I have come, as is written in the scriptures. I take joy in doing your will, my God, for your instructions are written on my heart. I have told all your people about your justice, and I have not been afraid to speak out, as you, O Lord, well know. I have not kept the good news of your justice hidden in my heart, and I have talked about your faithfulness and saving power. I have told everyone in great assembly of your unfailing love and faithfulness. We're going to leave off there. Let's go ahead and finish off where we left off in Proverbs. We are reading Proverbs chapter 10, verses 11 and 12. The words of the godly are a life-giving fountain. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. So that has been day 54 of DZ's daily devotions, where we're reading the Bible in 1 year. I'm so glad that you guys found this channel and heard the good news of the Lord. Before you leave, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for making this all possible by supporting me on Patreon at www.patreon.com/youngnemo. And I'll see you on day 55.